No matter how you make it, there is one thing you gotta do to make fantastic homemade chicken noodle soup, and I'm going to tell you what it is. Welcome to Lawyer in the Kitchen. Today we're gonna make homemade chicken noodle soup. If you haven't made homemade chicken noodle soup, you haven't had great chicken noodle soup. And the one thing that you've got to do, in my opinion, that will make this fantastic and make it so different is if you take the time to make your own broth. And you can do it a couple of ways, but you need the chicken bones. You can do what I'm gonna do today, and I'm gonna take the meat off a rotisserie chicken, and then I'm going to use the carcass in the pot with about 8 quarts of water and some celery and some carrots and an onion and a few other things, and then we're going to boil that, simmer it for about 2 hours to get the flavor. We're gonna add a little chicken base to it. That'll be fantastic. I've got egg noodles, and then we're gonna put all of the carrot, we're gonna start over with carrots and celery in the actual soup itself. We're gonna take the rotisserie chicken meat off, and then we're gonna cook that carcass for a couple of hours. Now, the other way to do this is to, and I've done this before a few times, and my wife loves this, I think she might say that's true, is I just take chicken thighs right out of the carton, container, whatever it is, or package, and then put them in the water and boil those, simmer those for a couple of hours, and then pull out all that meat off and let that flavor and everything come into the broth, and it makes all the difference in the world. So we're going to just take this chicken, and we're just gonna very nicely take this. We're not gonna use the skin, but we are going to use all of the meat. And if you leave a little meat on the bones, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. This is good right there, and there'll be more than enough chicken. So I'm gonna start putting the bones in. Pull this other leg off. I got the legs and wings off. I pulled all the skin off the remaining carcass. Now I'm just gonna stick my hand in here, grab that breast meat. We don't want the rotisserie flavor so much. This is good right here. This is all gonna be strained. So that goes in the pot. I'm gonna cut up these vegetables, celery, carrots, some rosemary and thyme, 3 bay leaves, and a half of a large onion, about 10 peppercorns, and about a half to 3/4 of a tablespoon of chicken base. I've got about 8 quarts of hot water in here. I'm going to add 3 chopped up carrots, 3 celery stalks chopped up, and the onion cut in thirds. Not all of these carrots are going to make it. I've got about this much fresh rosemary, about this much fresh thyme, 3 fresh bay leaves, because we have bay leaves, and then about 8 or 10 peppercorns, about 3/4 of a tablespoon of chicken base. We're gonna bring that to a boil, then turn it down to a simmer, cover it, and cook it for 2 hours. So this is boiling, and I'm going to turn it way down to a simmer. We want to cook, that's about right there. What were you telling me, Sharon, about this stuff you thought that you used to make as a kid?
Well, when we were kids and our mamas put us out in the yard to play all day, we would take our sand buckets and fill them with water, and then we would pick the leaves off of all the shrubs and put in the pot and a little bit of dirt, and we'd mix it up and pretend like we were cooking it, and we would call it goulashy goo-goo.
And then it became calico beans.
Stop! Go to my calico beans video, you'll love it.
Yeah, that'd be real good. 2 hours.
2 hours what?
This is going to simmer for 2 hours.
Simmer for 2 hours.
And then we're going to finish making the soup. Our broth is cooked for 2 full hours, and we're going to go ahead and strain it. Everything comes out. We just want the chicken broth. None of those vegetables are getting used, none of the chicken, nothing, just the broth. Some say that chicken broth to make a soup is as old as 10,000 years ago, and it started in Southeast Asia. The ancient Greeks used the broth for healing properties. I think everybody's mother made them chicken noodle soup when they were sick. And probably it's the steam, or just eating it made you feel better. The modern version was from Northern Europe. That's when the vegetables and the chicken started being put in it also. It was brought to America by the immigrants. But the noodles are said to have come from China and Italy, and you know there's Chinese noodles and of course Italian pasta. And that's probably in the 1200s. However, in 2005, noodles were found in an overturned 4,000-year-old bowl in China. So China may have actually been the earliest to put noodles with the chicken. I'm telling you what, come have a taste of this. And this doesn't have everything in it's gonna have yet. Here you go.
It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot.
Ooh, that tastes like chicken soup.
It's gonna be good. You can use a little salt, but I'm gonna wait until after I put everything else in.
You actually could use salt, and I'm surprised that I say that because you know.
Well, I put no salt in. We're gonna put all our vegetables in. I'm gonna get my cooker. Actually, what I'm probably gonna do is put a little more chicken base in there because it has a lot of salt. And that's the one thing you wanna wait. So I'm gonna add a little chicken base to it. Put about a half a tablespoon more of base, chicken base. And that, like I said, that is salty. But look at this, the color of this is nice. And that's all homemade stock. We'll go ahead and throw in the onions, which is gonna cool it down. Carrots. Our celery. I'm gonna wait to put the chicken in. If you have dry rosemary, put about 1/8 of a teaspoon. I've got fresh. I am gonna chop this up a little bit though. And I've also got some fresh sage. If you don't have fresh sage, use 1/8 of a teaspoon of sage, dried sage, rubbed sage. And I'm just gonna chop that up pretty finely. While our soup is cooking the vegetables so they become tender, we're going to go ahead and chop up the chicken, obviously bite-sized pieces. And there was no reason to cook this any longer. The chicken is completely cooked. And one of these chickens is obviously plenty of meat. This isn't going to be shy on meat. It's time to put the noodles and the chicken in. We're going to put all this chicken in. This is going to be super hearty. We're not going to put a bag of noodles. I'm going to put a couple of handfuls. I do know what it is, but I can't remember. I don't use that word that often. So the chicken will cool that down, obviously. And I think I'm gonna put a few more noodles in there, although they are gonna get a little bigger. I've decided, after tasting it just a second ago, I still want a little more chicken base in there for the salt. Another ½ teaspoon. And I might put a little more water in there. We'll see how much is absorbed by the noodles. About 1/8 of a teaspoon of red chili flakes. And this chicken noodle soup has just got to finish cooking till the noodles are done, because the vegetables will be done. They'll have a little texture. Our soup is cooked about another 30 minutes after adding the vegetables and the noodles, and it is done. And it has enough salt now. I ended up putting another little bit of chicken base in there. It's super hot, but the noodles are right, and I like these noodles. These are old style noodles. And so we're gonna ladle this up a bowl. And we are going to try it. Oh, you cannot get that in a can. You know what? It takes a little time. It's not that much work, but it tastes fantastic. It's super hearty. It's got just enough salt. I'm gonna try one of these noodles. That'll stick to your ribs. Even with the soup, she doesn't want much juice.
Ooh. Ooh.
Isn't that good? That's good.
Uh-huh.
I'm happy with it.
That is some fabulous comfort food right there.
Absolutely. Listen, if you like this video, then like it, please, and subscribe. I appreciate that. If you make a dish that I cook, post a picture of it, because I will put your picture on, at least for right now, the next few months. So anyhow, and I'll see you next time on
While you're in the kitchen.